As we age, our priorities naturally shift. Things that once felt essential, like maintaining a large circle of friends, may no longer hold the same importance. While this might sound surprising, embracing independence and focusing on your own well-being can be one of the best decisions you make after 70. In this video, we'll explore 7 reasons why friendships may not be as necessary in your later years as they once were. We'll look at how letting go of the pressure to maintain friendships can improve your mindset, personal freedom, and even your health. This isn't about loneliness, but rather about living life on your own terms, free from unnecessary obligations and expectations tied to social connections. By the end of this video, you might find that freeing yourself from the pressure of maintaining friendships that no longer serve you can not only bring relief but also change the way you view yourself in your later years. Embracing this shift can lead to a more fulfilling, peaceful life where you prioritize your own joy and well-being. Let's get started. Reason 1. The best companionship begins with yourself. As you grow older, one of the most enlightening discoveries is that the most meaningful companionship you can have is the one with yourself. By the time you reach your 70s, you've accumulated years of self-awareness, growth, and wisdom. You've spent decades understanding who you truly are, and this insight allows you to realize something profound. You are enough just as you are. Throughout much of life, society often teaches us to seek validation from others, convincing us that happiness comes from external companionship. We're made to fear loneliness and believe that being social is the ultimate goal. But as you age, you begin to realize that solitude doesn't necessarily mean loneliness. In fact, many of the happiest and most content people in their later years are those who have learned to embrace their own company, not as a sign of isolation but as a chance for personal growth, reflection, and peace. Take the example of Margaret, who is 75. She used to believe that happiness depended on surrounding herself with others. Her days were filled with social plans, constant check-ins with friends, and staying busy. However, as time passed, she began to notice that despite her active social life, she often felt exhausted and unfulfilled. The interactions that once brought joy now felt draining. She realized that many of her relationships were driven more by habit than genuine connection. Worse, she found herself constantly adjusting her personality to fit into conversations, trying to keep up with social norms, and fearing exclusion. Eventually, Margaret made a life-changing decision. She started to spend time with herself in a more meaningful way, doing things she genuinely enjoyed, listening to her own thoughts, and savoring her own presence. She took long walks without the need for company, visited cafes with a good book instead of engaging in shallow chatter, and spent quiet evenings reflecting on her life. She was surprised to find that, instead of feeling isolated, she felt more fulfilled and at peace than she had in years. The key takeaway here is that true companionship is not about having a large circle of people around you. It's about being comfortable with who you are. When you stop relying on others for approval, entertainment, or even simple conversation, you open the door to a sense of freedom that many never experience. You stop feeling the need for constant social stimulation and instead become your own source of happiness, wisdom, and fulfillment. And when you genuinely enjoy your own company, something wonderful happens. You begin to attract the right kind of relationships. These are relationships that come naturally and effortlessly, filled with mutual respect and understanding. Rather than seeking out friendships driven by loneliness, you'll find that the right people are drawn to your authentic self. So, if you've ever been concerned that letting go of friendships might leave you lonely, remember this: the best company you'll ever have is already with you. When you embrace this, you'll realize that true contentment comes from within. And with that understanding, you'll never feel truly alone. As you continue on this journey, you'll discover that peace and fulfillment reside in your own heart. Reason 2. Peace becomes more valuable than socializing. As you get older, something profound shifts within you. Peace becomes far more valuable than socializing. In your younger years, being surrounded by people might have felt like a necessity. The noise, the gatherings, the constant flow of conversations, it all seemed like a natural part of a life well lived. But as time passes, you start to appreciate something even more: quiet. Not just any quiet, but the kind of quiet that allows you to truly be at ease, free from unnecessary drama, obligations, and social fatigue. Many friendships, even the most meaningful ones, come with a certain level of responsibility. There are phone calls to return, invitations to accept, and unspoken expectations to maintain contact. It's not that friendships are inherently bad, it's simply that at a certain point they can begin to feel like more effort than they're worth. The truth is, you don't have to spend your time trying to keep up with others. You don't need to feel obligated to be available just because someone expects you to be. You've reached a stage in life where your time is yours, and you get to decide how to spend it. Take Margaret for example. She's 74 and once had a large circle of friends. Lunches, group calls, holiday gatherings. Her calendar was always full, and it seemed like a fulfilling way to live. But as the years passed, Margaret started to notice that many of these social interactions felt more draining than enjoyable. The conversations began to feel repetitive, the same stories being told over and over again. Some friends only called to complain, while others seemed more interested in gossip than meaningful discussions. The joy of companionship had slowly turned into a routine she no longer enjoyed. One day Margaret decided to step back. She stopped feeling guilty for saying no to invitations she wasn't excited about. She let go of the pressure to respond to every call or text immediately. Instead, she embraced the quiet. She found that the time she once spent managing friendships was now hers to use however she pleased. She took longer walks, spent time in nature, and read books she had been meaning to get to for years. Most importantly, she realized that solitude wasn't loneliness, it was peaceful. And that's the beauty of this stage in life. You no longer feel obligated to fill your days with constant activity or conversation just to feel connected. You get to enjoy your own company without the need for constant validation from others. You get to choose peace over pressure, calm over chaos. If you've ever felt guilty for pulling back from social obligations, remind yourself of this. You're not withdrawing from life, you're embracing a new kind of fulfillment. The kind that comes from within. The kind that doesn't rely on anyone else. And that kind of peace is something that only gets better with age. So, if you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you do so and turn on the bell to ensure you never miss any of these meaningful discussions. Now let's move forward. Reason 3. Fewer social expectations. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that not everyone you call a friend is truly there for you. Over the years, you've likely experienced this. People who were once close drifting away, friends who became distant when you needed them most, or relationships that turned out to be one-sided. By the time you reach 70, you begin to understand that fewer friendships don't just mean fewer social obligations. They also mean fewer disappointments. Friendships, no matter how strong, come with expectations. There's the expectation to check in, to be available, to offer support when needed. But what happens when those expectations aren't met? Disappointment. You call someone but they don't call back. You make an effort but they don't reciprocate. You find yourself giving more than you receive. And at this stage in life, do you really need that kind of stress? The answer is no. Take William for example. At 78, he's seen friendships come and go. Some ended naturally, while others faded because he realized he was always the one putting in the effort. There were people he had known for decades who suddenly became too busy, too distracted, or too uninterested to maintain a real connection. At first it stung. He wondered what he had done wrong, why certain people seemed to forget about him. But then he had a realization. He wasn't the one who had changed. He had simply stopped tolerating friendships that weren't mutual. That's the thing, when you let go of the idea that you need a large group of friends, you also let go of the disappointments that come with unmet expectations. You no longer have to feel frustrated when someone doesn't check in. You don't have to feel let down when a friendship fades. Instead, you get to focus on the most important person in your life, yourself. And this doesn't mean you have to isolate yourself. It simply means that you're choosing quality over quantity. Instead of maintaining a long list of acquaintances, you prioritize the relationships that truly matter, the ones that bring you joy and require no effort to sustain. Whether that's family, a lifelong friend, or even just a strong connection with yourself, those are the relationships that count. So, if you've ever felt like friendships have brought more stress than joy, remind yourself that it's okay to step back. It's okay to choose simplicity over complexity, peace over frustration. You don't need a long list of friends to feel fulfilled. You just need to let go of the ones who were never truly there for you in the first place. It's a liberating feeling to realize that you can live fully with fewer relationships, but those that remain will be richer, deeper, and more meaningful. In this stage of life, it's all about the relationships that nourish you, the ones that add value without draining your energy. You don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. You get to choose who you invest your time in, and that choice brings peace. Reason 4. Embracing change leads to personal growth. As we age, change becomes inevitable. And while it's easy to resist change, one of the most transformative things you can do in your later years is to embrace it. Change doesn't always have to be a daunting or uncomfortable experience. It can be a powerful catalyst for personal growth and self-discovery. In fact, embracing change can open up new possibilities for your life, allowing you to live more fully and authentically. At a younger age, we often fear change because it can feel like a loss of control or a disruption to the comfort and stability we've worked hard to establish. But as you move into your later years, you begin to realize that change doesn't need to be something to fear. Instead, it can be an opportunity to let go of old habits, reevaluate what truly matters, and open yourself to new experiences that align with the person you are now becoming. Consider someone like Edna, a woman in her 80s who had always been content with her routine. She had spent much of her life focused on work, family, and maintaining her established friendships. But after her retirement, she felt a little lost. Her usual activities no longer brought her the same sense of purpose they once did. At first, she tried to hold on to her old ways, reluctant to change anything, even though it felt like something was missing. Then one day Edna decided to make a change. She enrolled in a painting class, something she had always been curious about but never had time for. It was a small step, but it sparked something within her, a newfound excitement for learning and creativity. Over time, she began to embrace more changes. She traveled to places she had always wanted to visit, reconnected with old friends in new ways, and even started volunteering at a local community center. Each change she made brought a new sense of fulfillment, helping her discover hidden passions and connect with others in a deeper, more meaningful way. What Edna discovered was that embracing change didn't mean giving up her past or abandoning the things she valued. It simply meant allowing herself to grow and evolve, to make space for new experiences that enriched her life. Change opened doors she hadn't even known existed, leading to a more vibrant, exciting chapter of her life. That's the beauty of embracing change at any age. It keeps life dynamic, interesting, and full of growth. It reminds you that you're never too old to learn something new, to start a new hobby, or to form new connections. Change is not just for the younger generation. It's a gift that can enhance the lives of people at any stage. So, if you're finding yourself feeling stuck or stagnant, consider where you might embrace change in your own life. It could be something as simple as trying a new activity, setting new goals, or letting go of old routines that no longer serve you. Change doesn't always have to be big, but it can always be meaningful. By embracing it, you give yourself permission to live with a sense of purpose and joy, no matter your age. Remember, growth doesn't stop when you reach a certain age. It's a lifelong journey. Embrace change and watch as it transforms your life in ways you never expected. So, if you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you do so and turn on the bell to ensure you never miss any of these meaningful discussions. Now let's move forward. Reason 5. Your time becomes more precious. As you get older, you begin to realize that time is your most valuable resource. In your younger years, it may have felt like there was always more of it. More time to spend with friends, more time to invest in social circles, and more time to worry about who was in your life and who wasn't. But by the time you reach 70, your perspective shifts. You start to see that every hour, every day, every moment is precious. And when you truly understand the value of time, you naturally become more selective about how you spend it. Friendships, as fulfilling as they can be, also require time and effort. There are calls to make, visits to schedule, and plans to keep. While some relationships are worth maintaining, many are simply habits we carry from the past. Friendships that continue out of obligation rather than genuine enjoyment. At this stage in life, you have the right to ask yourself, is this how I want to spend my time? Does this friendship add to my happiness, or does it feel like just another thing on my to-do list? Take Richard for example. A man in his early 80s, Richard once had an active social life filled with dinner parties, group outings and regular phone calls. Over time, though, he began to feel differently. The long conversations that once felt enjoyable now seemed draining. The social gatherings that used to be exciting started to feel like obligations. One day, as he sat through yet another lunch filled with small talk and complaints, Richard had a realization. He didn't want to spend his time this way anymore. So he made a change. He stopped saying yes out of habit and began saying no when he didn't feel like going out. Instead of spending hours catching up on gossip or listening to complaints, Richard dedicated his time to things that truly brought him joy. He spent his days reading, walking, learning new things, and simply enjoying the peace of his own company. And the surprising part? He didn't feel lonely. In fact, he felt more fulfilled than ever before because he was spending his time in ways that mattered to him, not in ways that others expected. That's the key. When you let go of unnecessary friendships, you gain something far more valuable: time for yourself. Time to do the things you love. Time to enjoy life at your own pace. Time to focus on your own happiness instead of trying to meet the needs of others. So, if you ever find yourself questioning whether you should keep up with certain friendships, ask yourself, is this the best use of my time? Because at this stage in life, you don't owe your time to anyone. You've earned the right to use it however you choose. Reason 6. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. One of the biggest reasons you may find that friendships aren't as necessary after 70 is that you've already lived through the phase where social validation mattered. Think back to your younger years. How often did your friendships revolve around proving yourself, fitting in, or keeping up appearances? Whether it was impressing colleagues, maintaining social circles, or making sure you were included in gatherings, there was always an underlying pressure to be seen and accepted. But now you're at a stage in life where none of that is necessary. You've already built your legacy. Your experiences, values, and wisdom speak for themselves, and the opinions of others no longer hold the same weight. At this stage, you've seen enough to understand that true fulfillment doesn't come from external approval. It comes from within. There's no longer any need to chase friendships for status, reputation, or social standing. You are who you are, and you don't need anyone else's validation to confirm it. Many younger people spend their time worrying about how they're perceived, whether they're liked, admired, or respected. But by the time you've reached your later years, you realize that none of that defines your worth. You define your own value, and you don't need a group of people around you to reinforce it. Let me give you an example. Take someone like Arthur, a man in his early 70s who spent much of his life climbing the corporate ladder. He was always surrounded by people, colleagues, acquaintances, and so-called friends. But when he stopped working, most of those relationships faded away. At first, Arthur felt the need to reach out and keep those ties alive, feeling that he had to hold on to the social connections that were once a part of his life. But then something shifted. He asked himself, why should I put effort into friendships that only existed because of work? Why chase relationships that were never truly meaningful in the first place? And that was the turning point for him. Instead of trying to hold on to friendships out of habit, Arthur shifted his focus inward. He began spending more time on personal hobbies, rediscovered old interests, and most importantly, stopped caring about impressing others. The results? He felt freer than ever. No more forced small talk. No more social obligations. No more worrying about whether people liked him or not. Arthur was simply living for himself, and for the first time in a long time, that felt incredibly good. And that's the key. When you no longer seek validation from others, you start to realize how much energy you spent on friendships that didn't add real value to your life. The constant need to fit in, the pressure to be liked, the obligation to maintain relationships out of routine, it all starts to fade away. You realize that you don't need to prove yourself to anyone anymore. You don't need to keep up with anyone else's expectations. The only person you need to answer to is yourself. The freedom that comes with this realization is powerful. It's a quiet kind of peace that settles deep within you. And as you embrace this sense of self-acceptance, you'll find that the relationships you choose to nurture from this point forward are the ones that truly matter. They'll be authentic, free of expectations, and rich with meaning, not based on what others think of you but on the deep connection you share with them. So, if you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you do so and turn on the bell to ensure you never miss any of these meaningful discussions. Now let's move forward. Reason 7. Letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. One of the most empowering things you can do after turning 70 is to let go. Let go of the pressure to maintain friendships that no longer bring joy. Let go of the idea that your social circle defines your worth. Let go of the belief that being alone means being lonely. Because the moment you release these expectations, you open the door to a life that is simpler, freer, and far more fulfilling. Many people continue holding on to friendships out of habit, even when those relationships no longer add any real value to their lives. They attend gatherings they don't enjoy, answer calls out of obligation, and keep up appearances simply because it's what they've always done. But what if you didn't have to do any of that? What if you gave yourself permission to let go of friendships that feel like work and, instead, focused on the things that truly bring you happiness? Consider James, a man in his late 70s. He once believed that staying socially active was the key to aging well. He made an effort to stay in touch with old friends, even when those relationships had become distant or superficial. He filled his days with social obligations, thinking that staying busy meant staying fulfilled. But one day James realized something important. He wasn't enjoying any of it. The conversations felt repetitive. The gatherings felt more like routines. Deep down he felt more exhausted than connected. So James made a choice. He stopped forcing himself to maintain friendships that no longer felt meaningful. Instead, he started prioritizing what truly mattered to him. He spent more time outdoors, focused on his health, learned new things, and embraced the freedom that came with no longer having to meet anyone's expectations. And in doing so, he discovered something remarkable. He felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than he had in years. That's the beauty of letting go. It doesn't mean closing yourself off from the world. It means creating space for what truly fulfills you. It means recognizing that your happiness isn't tied to how many people are in your life, but rather to how aligned you are with the life you actually want to live. Here's what happens when you embrace this mindset. You stop worrying about who's in your life and start focusing on what brings you joy. You begin to appreciate the little things. Waking up to a quiet morning, enjoying a hobby without distraction, or simply being at peace with your own thoughts. You realize that fulfillment doesn't come from maintaining friendships out of duty, but from living in a way that feels natural and meaningful to you. So, if you've ever felt like you should be doing more to maintain friendships, ask yourself, is this truly adding to my happiness, or am I holding on out of habit? Because once you give yourself permission to let go, you'll find that life becomes simpler, lighter, and more fulfilling in ways you never expected. Final thoughts. As we navigate the later years of life, it's essential to embrace the changes that come with it. Whether it's letting go of friendships that no longer serve us, finding peace in solitude, or embracing new opportunities for personal growth, each choice can lead to a life that's richer, more fulfilling, and more in tune with who we are today. The beauty of aging lies in the freedom to choose how we spend our time, who we spend it with, and how we want to live our lives on our own terms. Remember, the journey isn't about holding on to what no longer fits, but about creating space for the things that truly bring us joy, peace, and fulfillment. If you've enjoyed this video and found these insights helpful, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the ideas we've explored today. Do any of them resonate with you? And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to sharing more wisdom and encouragement with you. Stay well and embrace the beauty of your journey.